is going on, guys? Dork Gaming here, and I want to point out a couple of things before we start this video. I want to apologize for not uploading the previous 2 weeks because I was on an important wedding and I had a lot of things to take care of afterwards in terms of school, so I had no time to really upload. But I'm gonna try and make it up by having a double upload today. Anyway, I don't want to keep this in. I want to keep this introduction short, so let's get on with this. Now, of course, you read the title, so you know what we're going to be talking about. Let's get on to the background of this story, however. One day, I was in Tygastripe's stream, and if you don't know who Tygastripe is, the link to his Twitch channel and YouTube channel will be in the description down below. Tygastripe is a mostly streamer that broadcasts either Warframe, Fortnite, or Paragon, which are all games that I kind of like. And he's a pretty chill guy, so I would highly suggest him, and the links again for his channels will be in the description down below. Go check him out, give him a follow, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Anyway, let's move on. So, one day I was in his stream, and he pointed this out while fashion framing Titania. You know, Titania does have a very sentient looking collar on her, and truth be told, it is there. Like, if you pay close attention, it is there. At the base of her neck, Titania has a symbol, or shape rather, that highly resembles the shape of a sentient fragment. And of course it is in a different color, not red, so maybe the resemblance is not that much apparent. But in my colors that I used for this video here, you will notice that Titania does seem to have that fragment there, and with red it's really apparent. It really pops out on you, and that got me speculating over the fact that, you know, maybe Titania isn't a full Warframe as per se. She was made by the Orokin. Maybe she was made by the Sentients, because there's a lot of tiny little things that when you put them together, they really make up for quite a big thing. And those tiny little things are things that I'm going to point out here today for you guys. But of course, do keep in mind that this video is entirely speculation. None of this is confirmed. We have no idea what Warframes are yet because we don't really have any guaranteed lore. We can only speculate. And this is exactly what this video is. It's purely speculation. We have no idea whether or not this is real or not, but I figured I'd point it out because to me it makes a lot of sense. So, after a 3.5 minute introduction, let's get on with this video, shall we? Now, I already mentioned one point, but I'll go ahead and repeat it in case that I didn't make it clear enough before. Titania, at the base of her neck, has a symbol, shape, that looks very much so like a sentient fragment. Now, this could be a trophy from a fight Titania had with a sentient, but it's pretty much embedded into the Warframe, so I doubt that it is that option. So, if you also color this channel red, the channel that actually colors that symbol as well, you'll see that it's pretty apparent the resemblance it has with sentient bone. And it's pretty much what actually started this whole speculation anyway. But let's move on to point 2. Titania has very closely resembling colors to sentient fighters, armor, and weaponry. If you take a look at the Pakal armor set, the War and Broken War melee weapons, and sentient fighters that we can fight in the moon, not the Oculus, because those are basically specters. Titania has a very much so a good resemblance to them on her base colors. Now, they're not 100% there, but they're pretty close. And now that I actually think about it, her Solstice skin looks pretty close to the Oculus. So, I guess in the end she does have a resemblance to Oculus as well. So, yeah, that's That's kind of an odd feature, don't you think? Moving on into the next point. Titania at base is the only Warframe that can fly by standard. And what I mean by that is Titania's animations allow her to fly when she's not walking or aiming down sights or actually firing her weapon, which by the way makes no sense. But when she's idly just hovering about, well, she's hovering, kind of like sentient fighters can hover. And I know that's kind of like nitpicking, but if you consider the fact that there's no other Warframe that can do this by their own, without either using abilities or using Titania's animation sets, it's pretty it's pretty much a really good thing to think about. I mean, she's the only Warframe that can fly by her own, or rather hover, and she can fly in her ability, but at that point, Zephyr can kind of do the same thing. She doesn't really fly as much as she jumps really friggin' high, but I digress. Now, speaking of abilities, Titania's abilities have pretty close resemblances to some things that Sentients can do. More specifically, her capability to punch out the soul of an enemy in order to benefit from it, as well as her allies that are nearby, is very much so closely resemblant to the capability of a sentient to actually, well, consume, quote unquote, the souls or parts of their fallen sentient comrades in order to regen all of their missing health. And also they can link with each other to negate damage, which is one of the buffs that Titania can get from the souls of enemies. Excuse me. And also, if that sentient heart is not picked up either by you or another sentient, it will actually explode. Very much so similar to how Titania's lantern ability will make an enemy basically a time bomb, where if you shoot him and then recast the ability or the timer of the ability runs out, the enemy's body will explode, dealing damage. There's also the fact that her razor wing is pretty much a direct way for her to fly, kind of like Sentients do, but we already covered that point. Moving on, there's the fact that in Razor Wing, Titania will shrink, and she also, well, I don't know, ejects, splits off the razor flies from her body. Where else do we see this in Sentients? Well, we see this in Hunhao in Second Dream, saying to Stalker that he's weak and he cannot kill the Tenno. So he sends out his fragment to do that, implying that sentient fighters are actually fragments of Hunhao. But they're sentient, and razor flies are also sentient. I mean, you can't really control where they're gonna go, can you? And that puts us also in the point where, in Octavia's Anthem, we know that Hunhao corrupted Suda, but we don't know necessarily if it was Hunhao's main body or if it was just another fragment, considering the fact that even though we broke war at the end of Second Dream, Hunhao came back in Octavia's Anthem, it'd be safe to assume that in Octavia's Anthem it's not Hunhao himself, as in the main body, but is instead another fragment, which means fragments can manifest into entire sentience. Entire sentience, quote unquote, because it's not an entire sentient, it's more of a hologram at that time, but in due time, I'm pretty certain that we would have seen another freaking Hunhao body coming to life. So there's that to consider. Now moving on, we have two more points that I'd like to point out, and these are probably the most important. So keep these two very close to heart. Dex weapons are Lotus crafted anniversary weapons to commemorate the day where the first Tenno, or Warframes, awoke from cryostasis or cryosleep, aka they're sentient manufactured weapons because Lotus is a sentient. Then why does Dexpixia exist? Dexpixia is the weapons that Titania uses in Razorwing mode. Judging by the definition of Dex weapons, Dexpixia makes no sense, other than the fact that they are sentient weapons. If they are sentient weapons, it would make sense for them to be called Dex, right? And lastly, we have the fact that Titania is the first Warframe. Of course, in the Codex entry of Excalibur, we have that he is the first Warframe, but by the definition of Sylvana in the Silver Grove, we learn that Titania was the first, meaning that there was no base plate, there was no other Warframe blueprint to work off of. So what they would have worked off of were sentient blueprints and perhaps combined with infestation, since infestation was a thing back then. So, there's a little something. We never learned what Warframes were, and judging by the fact that there was no other base plate to go off of other than sentience, this is probably why Titania resembles a sentient so much, and why she perhaps might be sentient in manufacture. Anyway guys, I hope that you did enjoy this video covering this theory of mine. Again, please do check out Tygastripe in the description down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like. If you didn't, please do give it a dislike. And if you enjoyed it that much that you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing. It's the best way for you to keep up with the videos that I'll be uploading. Thanks for watching guys. I'll see you in the next video.